Next up, we have a little bit of a different kind of presentation here, and something that maybe is going to talk a little bit about why Bitcoin is for everyone and why you should help to get everyone you know into Bitcoin. So our next presenter is Bree. She is a Bitcoin educator, a Bitcoin education advocate, involved with Bitcoin Walk, guide of Bitcoin Walk Munich, also involved with Les Femmes Orange, one of the organizations advocating for women in Bitcoin, supporter of Vexel. I think that's quite many things. So let's welcome Bree to the stage.
Thank you. So this is so cool to be here. Thanks for coming to the show. And I have to admit one thing before we start. I'm an experienced writer, but I'm obviously not that good in memorizing all the things I wrote down for this presentation for you. So that's why I have to stick with my notes. I really apologize for that. And I hope you will enjoy what I have to share with you today. Anyways. So Bitcoin is for everyone, though that's not quite new. And I think we all agree on one thing, that Bitcoin is much more than just an investment or a cool technology. We know that Bitcoin has the power to change the world for the better. We know that Bitcoin is a tool for independence, for freedom, for peace. Some of us understood it immediately, and some of us took a while. But sooner or later, each of us came to that point probably where he realized what a fantastic gift Satoshi Nakamoto gave to us when he released the Bitcoin protocol. Andreas Antonopoulos, one of the most famous and earliest Bitcoin advocates, he described in an interview how he started his Bitcoin journey. He said that for months he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep. He just had to consume everything he found about Bitcoin in the internet, every article he could find. He actually lost weight during these months. And I'm pretty sure many of you probably have not lost as much weight as him, but remember how they were fascinated and how it blew their mind when they really understood what Bitcoin is all about. And most of us start running around and want to tell to everybody, whether they want to hear it or not, about this fantastic thing they just discovered. But then comes the cold shower. Nobody wants to listen. No interest, rejection, maybe arguments. And there you are, super happy with what you found and super frustrated because nobody wants to hear it. So some of us just keep going. They talk to everybody about Bitcoin. Some of us get more cautious. They try to avoid the topic. Some of us don't talk about it anymore. And that's a pity, I think. And I'm here today to tell you that we should keep going, that we should bring our loved ones to our Bitcoin journey, and that we should never stop talking about Bitcoin. And there are some good reasons for that. And I have categorized the most important reasons I have found into 3 categories. It's first, why it matters to our loved ones. Second, why it matters to society. And third, why it matters to you. So let's dive in. Inflation is one of the main reasons why we started saving in Bitcoin. So food prices went up to 20, 30, 40% in some regions in Europe. For the people in Bulgaria, I think it was extremely hard. And by the way, has anyone's salary gone up by 30% in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years? No one? Oh, down. Oh, that's too bad, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So to maintain their standard of living, many people have to work even harder. They have to work in jobs they don't love or accept poor working conditions. And I ask myself, shouldn't we have a better and an easier life with new technologies and all the progress? Shouldn't we have more time in the end? So we know that Bitcoin is the only asset in the world with a fixed, unchangeable supply, 21 million, as we know, and that makes it the best asset we ever had on this planet. So, and that is something our friends should understand. But when your money constantly loses value, you can't help but run faster and faster. And the wealth my parents were able to build is something far away for the young generation today. And it's not just about material wealth. If we don't have the time for the things that really matter, like hobbies, family, friends, travel, or simply time for ourselves. So what life is that? It's more rushing through life than living it. But Bitcoin gives us back a piece of freedom and can improve our quality of life. So as most people today are racing through their life, many simply don't have the time to look into Bitcoin. Too much work, household, kids, responsibilities. That is, by the way, something that is especially true for most women, as they have to juggle more roles at once. So let's help these folks. Let's show them that it's not that difficult. Let's take them by the hand and take away the fear they have before they even start with Bitcoin. And I'm pretty sure that many people really just don't know how to start. And I had that only like 3 or 4 days ago when I was at a dinner party, and I talked about my travel to Bulgaria to have that speech, and 2 ladies were there super interested in Bitcoin, and they said, the one said, but how do I keep these Bitcoin? Is it like in a portfolio where you have stocks? The other one says, I don't even know how to buy these Bitcoins. So this is quite interesting. So before we can start with arguments like telling them all the beauty we know about Bitcoin, there's another barrier. It's just people have no clue how to start. And I'm pretty sure many people would not admit that they have no plan. So let's help these people. We can guide them, or let me first tell, if we guide them through their first steps, we can save them time. We can prevent them from finding scams. And we can just give them the first wow moment when they do their very first Bitcoin transaction. So we can explain why or where they can buy their Bitcoins on Wix Exchange. We can also explain why it would be much better not to buy on an exchange, but maybe peer-to-peer. We can set their first Bitcoin wallet with them up, and we can tell them how important it is to have strong passwords. And that brings us to the core properties of Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin gives us something humanity has never had before. What is that? Who knows? I'll tell you. It's financial sovereignty. It gives us the ability to say no, and that's a rare thing today, where most people are used to say yes to everything. And with any other money system, we have no chance to control our money or to control what happens to our wealth. With Bitcoin in self-custody, it's different. We have sovereignty, we have autonomy. And that is has a powerful psychological effect. It makes us more relaxed, more confident. And that's pretty cool. And those of you who were in Bitcoin for a while probably know what I mean, that peace of mind you have when you have Bitcoin in self-custody. And that's something we should share with our loved ones. Next, please. And by the way, one thing I forgot, I think we don't have much time to bring our loved ones into Bitcoin because institutions are preparing to take over. But a Bitcoin ETF doesn't hold Bitcoin's values, or the most important value, sovereignty. So, and I think no one will tell them what Bitcoin really is. A decentralized, non-censorship resistant money that no banks and no governments and no institutions can control. And finally, it's about hope we want to give our loved ones. Because we know that we don't have to worry forever. We Bitcoiners know that the future won't be that bad, even if media makes us believe that sometimes. But we know we have an honest money. We know we can't be robbed by inflation. We know that we have money that really belongs to us and that we can plan for our future, independent from political decisions. And that gives us really peace of mind, right? And that's something we should share with others. So let's change the narrative. It's not about the price. It's not about number go up. If we really care about someone, we don't just share our Bitcoin wisdom, but also the spirit of Bitcoin, which is, for me, the foundation of a free and sovereign future. So, we have already covered that Bitcoin is the ultimate gift to our people. It's an act of self-sovereignty and love for our inner circle. But the real beauty of a decentralized system is the multiplication effect. So every single life we improve is a domino that can change the entire world. So now why does it matter to society? Bitcoin gives access to everyone, but as we know, it's still a staggering like 8.4 billion adults in the world which have no access to a banking system. They're just excluded from the system. They can't receive payments, they can't start online businesses or whatever. But with Bitcoin, we have all these possibilities. A young guy in Nigeria could start to work online, offer his services, and get paid in Bitcoin. A family in Argentina can protect its wealth when inflation hits and their local currency collapses. All they need is a phone and an internet connection. And even in Europe, it's not that easy for many people to have financial services. It's still 13 million people in the European Union which have no basic banking systems. So, when we spread Bitcoin, we are not just accelerating mass adoption, we are actively helping to build a better world. Isn't that nice? Next one, that was financial inclusion, obviously. And speaking of a fairer world, there's something that matters to me a lot, of course, as I'm a woman. And we know that in many countries, women have not the right to have their own money or an own bank account, unless maybe they ask their husband for allowance. How crazy is that? But Bitcoin can bring the solution. And women can receive payments in Bitcoin, save for the future, take care for the children, or whatever they want to do. And the more women start using Bitcoin and discover the opportunity it brings, the fairer and stronger our societies will be. And we know that financial education and financial equality for women and for girls is the key to fighting poverty. So, have you ever considered, when you do a single lightning payment, that you are actually fighting poverty? That's pretty cool, I think. Next, you have probably heard the phrase that Bitcoin is freedom money. And I want to add that it's also peace money. Because it changes the biggest power dynamics in the world. In a world where Bitcoin is used as money, governments could no longer print unlimited amounts of money to fund their wars. Because the creation of new Bitcoins, as we know, is fixed in the code. Every 10 minutes, a new block until 21 million Bitcoin are mined. And that will take another 100 plus years from now. So this hard money makes it much more difficult for leaders to misuse their power. They can't secretly print money to pay for wars anymore. Instead, they have to seek for peaceful solutions. And that means Bitcoin could become the foundation for a more cooperative and peaceful world. So, my message is simple. Let us use Bitcoin in every day. Let us talk about its potential for peace and let's actively help make mass adoption happen. Next one. Now let's talk about sustainability. No, not that kind of bullshit sustainability with bureaucracy and all the things governments invented for us. About real sustainability, because Bitcoin helps us think long-term and live more sustainably, because it teaches us low time preference. Low time preference simply means that we can be patient to wait for something better in the future instead of wanting it right now. But in today's fiat system, it's the opposite. When your money constantly loses value, you're forced to spend it quickly and think short-termly. And in countries with hyperinflation, people literally have no choice. They have to spend immediately because their money loses value every day. But the short-term mindset has serious consequences for society. It affects family planning. Couples decide, not that often as before, to have children because they can hardly get around on their own. Health. We know that people with high time preference tend to live not that healthy lives. They don't have that healthy food, they don't exercise as much, they don't think about prevention. Products, this is something we know all, that everything has to be cheap and fast today. And that means we have poor quality, we have a lot of waste, pollution, fast fashion, all that stuff. All these things that are not good for our planet. So Bitcoin, on the other hand, rewards us when we save and think long-term. It naturally encourages people and businesses to invest in quality and in the future. And this mind shift alone can change society for the better, I think. Next, please. So for most people, Bitcoin seems to be just a digital currency. So not most people here, but the pre-coiners, the no-coiners, the normies. But we know it's so much more than that. When people start learning about Bitcoin, they often start asking new questions like, what is money really? Who decides how much money we have? And why do our savings lose value every day? So I don't know about you, but I was never taught these things at school. But with Bitcoin, we can start asking these questions. And once you start asking these questions, you find many new topics you want to dive in. It's like history, it's ethics, it's economy, all these things. So Bitcoin challenges us to ask new questions and to think for ourselves and to stop believing what everybody wants to tell us. So this kind of critical awareness, if that spreads, real change can begin in society. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. Do I have one more? Yes. So, and what's truly special about Bitcoin, that it takes the power away from the few and brings it to the many. So the more people use Bitcoin, the less control banks, states, and corporations have over our lives. So when people can hold their own money, it becomes much harder to control them through inflation or bank accounts frozen. That means Bitcoin is the key to fixing the imbalance of power in our societies. And that's an idea that truly gives hope and makes me excited for the future. Now, let's find out what's in it for you. You probably know what that means, HFSP. Does anybody have an idea what this stands for? Have fun staying poor, right. So in the Bitcoin community, at least, it means that. And I have to say, I never liked that phrase, even if I would call myself the queen of sarcasm, but that's really too much for me. And I would suggest to not even think something like that, because the moment we believe that we are somehow superior, more intelligent than all the others who don't get it, that changes something in our relationships, and that's not what we want to have. So here's my advice. Watch your thoughts, stay humble, be grateful that you found Bitcoin, and help others to understand it as well. And one reason why it's in our own interest to spread the word around Bitcoin is what I call the Titanic scenario. Oh, I'm a little bit behind. There it is, the Titanic scenario. So even if we can protect ourselves with Bitcoin and our wealth, we still have to deal with what's happening around us. So if fiat systems collapse, or we slide into deep recessions. So imagine the Titanic sinking. You're one of the few who made it to the lifeboat. You're safe. But your friends and family are still in the freezing water, struggling. How much would you enjoy that trip, that cruise? Would you say, well, yes, I was faster than them. I knew where the lifeboats are. Shit happens. No, of course not. You simply wouldn't feel good watching them suffer. So this scenario is quite realistic, in my opinion, with the fiat system as the sinking ship and Bitcoin as the lifeboat. Next, please. But it gets worse. If your loved ones suffer financially, when the system breaks, when fiat goes down, you won't just walk away. Of course, you will help them. But that means your Bitcoin savings, the money you set aside for your dreams or for your retirement, might end up paying their debts, their doctor's bills, or whatever. So if that's not a reason to start educating people now, I don't know what is. Next, please. So, but let's come to not so dystopic subjects. Once you fall down the rabbit hole, you start questioning everything. Media, money, politics, power. That changes you. And not everyone around you will understand that. It can create distance. Friends might think you've lost your mind. Family might react with skepticism, maybe even anger, just like we saw during the COVID era, when opinions were miles apart and friendships and families suffered. So, the point is crucial. Protect your relationships. Bringing your partner or your friends and family along is essential, at least far enough so they can a little bit understand what's going on in your mind. And that requires a lot of patience, of course. But the more relaxed you remain and the more space you give them for their doubts, the better it is. So don't judge them because they don't get it. Just be patient. If you can keep the dialogue going instead of fighting and arguing, you've done awesome. Because when you manage to communicate in a way that leaves the doors open, the other person can always pick up the conversation again or ask questions later. So, by being kind and keeping the good dialogue, we make it easier for them to change their mind without feeling embarrassed. Next, please. And even if your people around you are, let's say, more relaxed with your behavior, with your new behaviors, doesn't it feel sometimes a little sad or lonely to swim against the stream? And I can tell you, discovering Bitcoin is just more fun when you do it together. I was lucky that I had a friend of mine, an old friend of mine actually, right from the beginning when I discovered first crypto, then Bitcoin. And that was so much fun to figure out all these exciting things together, to set up our first hardware wallets together, to go to our first meetups together, only men, of course, only me and my friend were women, and to travel to conferences together, for example, to Sofia, and there she is, Corinne, my friend, came to me all the way from Germany to support me and to meet the Bulgarian Bitcoiners here. So, if you manage to bring just one person with you on your journey, that's already amazing, because that person can inspire others, and so it spreads. Even better if you keep doing it again and again, helping others understand what Bitcoin stands for. Because every person we teach about Bitcoin can pass it on. Bitcoin is a grassroots movement, they say. It doesn't come from governments, it doesn't come from corporations, it has no CEO. It comes from us, the people. And if we want Bitcoin to stay in the hands of the people, if we want self-custody, decentralization and sovereignty to survive, then it's up to us to pass on the knowledge and the values. So, this is the last point, the future vision. No, we're not at the end of my speech, sorry. It's the last point of that middle part. So, in the end, it's all about the kind of world we want to live in. A world with less poverty, less corruption, less exploitation, less stress. That's what we Bitcoiners are building, right? So when we share the Bitcoin ethos, we stop being just savers, but we start being active architects of a better future. And the personal benefits are clear. Stronger relationships, deeper connections, and the knowledge that we are building a future worth living in. That's our mission, right? So, let's move from why we do all this to some practical tips for bringing people into Bitcoin. Let's pass on the fire, share your enthusiasm, and use daily opportunities to talk about Bitcoin or the use of Bitcoin. Ask your favorite cafe whether they accept Bitcoin or not. Ask any place you go. That is something we like to do wherever we are. Can we pay in Bitcoin? It's just to... We have mentioned it. Maybe we come to that later. So wherever you are, in a store, in a taxi, just offer the people to make a quick onboarding. Most of them don't know how easy it is to get some sats via Lightning. How should they know if we don't tell them? And the more people that join Bitcoin, the more they are helping Bitcoin. And we would love to live in a Bitcoin world. At least I do. Probably you too. So let's help it let's help make it happen. Next, please. And, oh, that's interesting altogether. That's nice. We have here some possibilities for bringing others into Bitcoin. First of all, keep it light. It's important that the people have fun and that you have fun, and you can do that by playing with Bitcoin. There are board games, there are card games, and you can just do a little bit of Bitcoin education while playing with your folks. There are also apps that is cool for children or for the young people to earn some sats while they test their wisdom. You can also check out activities to meet people in real life. That's of course, the most interesting part. For example, if you have a local Bitcoin meetup, you can find out whether they celebrate the Bitcoin Pizza Day, which is once a year. That's a good opportunity to bring your partner or to bring your friends and just hang around with other Bitcoiners. Another great way to create memories is to travel together to Bitcoin conferences. There are so beautiful places in the world. It's like Lugano, Amsterdam, Prague, Sofia, of course, El Salvador, you name it. Bring your people, because very often there are side events that are also fun for your friends or your family, or at least you can stay a little longer and pass some days together with your friends after the conference. When you know in your hood there's a place where they accept Bitcoin, I would suggest just bring somebody to have a coffee with you, some of your friends, and then you pay with Lightning, and they just see how easy it is. So it's much more intense for them to see something than just to hear of it. And the most smart way of spreading the word about Bitcoin or to spark interest is to give the gift of Bitcoin. Whether you have a wallet maybe for your nephew or for your godchild, you give them a little bit of money in their wallet, and maybe the parents of them get interested into Bitcoin. That's very clever. And if they are not interested, you have at least secured the future of a young person. So, what is the most important message I want to leave you with today? Even though I've pushed the idea in this talk that we should bring as many people to Bitcoin as possible, I want to add, just take it easy. relax. It's not about recruiting like crazy, and you should not bother your friends or family. And it's good to know that as a prophet in your own land, you already have the toughest job with your closest relatives and friends. And once you realize this, it becomes much easier for you to relax because you don't have these expectations. And we just heard it last week on a Bitcoin conference in Germany. One of the most famous German podcasters and Bitcoin writers and entrepreneurs, Florian Bruce, he told us that a guy came to him and said, "Hey, Florian, with your brilliant podcast, I finally orange-pilled my friend." And he said, "Yes, that's nice for you. I couldn't manage that with my folks so far." Because it's not the same when your closest friend tells you something than when it comes from somebody else. That's insane, but that's how it is. So, what we can do instead is to plant a seed and to water it from time to time, without any expectations and without being disappointed if someone doesn't immediately cry hooray when you talk about Bitcoin. Because often it takes several impulses before someone truly gets interested. So here's my final advice for your Bitcoin journey and maybe for your journey in life. The best thing you can be is relaxed. Remember, relaxation attracts people. Be kind, be respectful in your communication, and be a good listener. Because it's often more important to listen to others than to push through your own message. And I want to end with the words of Michael Saylor: spread Bitcoin with love. Thank you.